This was a case we had filed in around 2010, which challenged the use of criminal history records during the 2010 decennial hiring process for the Census Bureau. And the case challenged the use of criminal history records as a means to exclude applicants. There were 4 million applicants, roughly a quarter, around 850,000 people, were identified as having criminal records who were then subject to an additional screen based on their criminal history record. And as a consequence, something like 99% of all applicants who had a criminal record were screened out of the hiring process. In fact, blacks and Latinos were much more likely to be excluded from the census hiring process relative to whites.
One of the individuals who stands out for me is Precious Daniels. She lives in Detroit, Michigan. At some point, she was part of a peaceful protest, was arrested. She ended up with a minor disorderly conduct conviction. She applied to be a census enumerator, and she got a letter basically telling her that unless she responded with official court documentation within 30 days, she would be deemed ineligible. She wasn't able to actually find the correct information, and certainly not in the time that was required. And in essence, she was denied an opportunity that she was otherwise qualified and really actually needed that job at that moment in her life.
The Census Bureau didn't want to spend the money to come up with a better way to determine whether somebody was an actual threat. The Census Bureau simply did a name match. So there were just countless examples where people either were convicted of no crime at all, it wasn't them, or have a minor conviction. As a practical matter, it was an absolute barrier to employment.
The settlement requires the Census Bureau to change its hiring practices for 2020 and to come up with a system that's valid, that doesn't eliminate people who are otherwise qualified, who don't pose a risk. Another component is that there was a $5 million fund created so that individual class members could opt to have their records evaluated, expunged, and sealed where that's possible.
The last piece is that there's essentially a way to apply for the 2020 decennial through the settlement itself. So if you have an interest in working as an enumerator, you can apply through the settlement, and essentially you're first in line. There is a long and sad history in this country of overcriminalization and mass incarceration of people of color. What happens to those people when they re-enter society? What are we doing to try to help those people re-engage and become productive people within our communities? We had an opportunity to really address that problem, and I think that's fundamentally what the case is about.
To have a very large segment of our population that employers are deeming unemployable. For the legal team, it really was and is one of the very important civil rights challenges of our time to tackle.